All right, good evening everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Again, thank you sa lahat ng mga nag-send ng kanilang thoughtful comments and your commiseration to Lola. I'm sure her soul really appreciates it. And of course, among the great folks who also sent his commiserations is our special guest today. Been a while since we have caught up. Thank you very much again, former Associate Justice Antonio Carpio.
Thank you, Richard, for having me again.
As always, Justice, obviously we used to have this every week, but I think we overused you the other month. I think 15 episodes na kami. Alam mo naman, sineslides namin yan. Yung RMM episode. I think I owe you forwarding them, but the comments are really, really good, and we had hundreds of thousands of views for those views, for your interventions and all. So, Justice, there are three broad themes I want to cover today. Obviously, I want to talk a little bit about what's the latest in West Philippine Sea, what's the way forward, especially as we anxiously wonder whether an all-out war could transpire in the Middle East while the Ukraine conflict is still going on. So inevitably, that's going to have implications in our part of the world. So medyo pag-usapan din natin yung Typhoon missile system deployment, which is the drama. Hindi naman Cuban Missile Crisis, but something along those lines. Obviously, pag-usapan din natin itong this very brave intervention on your part, on the part of also, mag-cousin ba kayo, di ba, ni Carpio Morales, si Justice
Yeah, yes, the third cousin.
Third cousin. Yeah, she told me kasi from Batak sila, Ilocos, no? So we're talking Ilocano together about Baguio stuff also here. She's amazing. And of course, Chelo Magno, also another progressive thought leader, Professor Magno. But before that, Justice Carpio, as you know naman, we start with our hometowns. Davao. So the last time we talked, there was the whole Kibuloy situation, and I think a lot of the analysis you've made just is about the Kibuloy situation are bearing fruit. The ICC has not yet happened, so marami pa rin nagtatroll sa atin. But there have been a couple of developments on ICC. For instance, I think Bato has
Mm.
admitted na tinatawag na siya. ICC is calling for new witnesses. So it didn't exactly happen on this day, but I think we're moving in that direction soon. Medyo nagpapanik na si Pebbles. But before that, can we talk about etong nag-Garma na ba? Nag-Garma na ba sila Duterte? How important is the Garma expose? Another Davaoenyo, former Davao policewoman, Colonel Garma ba? How important is the Quadcom hearing and the exposés, Justice?
Well, I think it's very, very important. It's very explosive because it establishes the creation of the uh, extrajudicial killing group headed by Leonardo, of course. No, and it comes from a very credible source because she was very close to the president, and she even was the one who recruited Leonardo. So it, what's important that it establishes that the it was the president who set up this group that engaged in extrajudicial killing, uh, coming from the person who recruited the head of that group. So very credible.
Very credible. No, I mean, speaking of how close to the president, former lover ba, sabi ni Dan Fernandez. I think Congressman Fernandez is very particular about certain angles, no, the personal ties. Ano ba alam mo, Justice? Sorry, ginawa kitang marites. Former
well,
lover, oh, may anak ba sila ni Digo?
well, I really don't know, but everybody's saying she's close. Even recently, Albayalde, PNP chief Albayalde, said yes, she's very close to the president, and the fact that she was appointed head of PCSO, and she could bring people to the president, her own classmates. So and she she has a lot of stories about the president. So I think uh, her credentials are quite strong.
Yeah, yun nga. The reason I was asking that is, of course, I didn't want, I mean, joke lang yung marites, but if they were really intimate through and through, she should have been privy to a lot of exchanges. I mean, Duterte is a nocturnal guy like me, right? So I'm sure he made many calls at night, I don't know, by the bedside, whatever. So hindi lang ex-police woman ito, itong tao na I'm sure has been in the loop, no, in terms of how Duterte runs. Essentially, his algorithm of deadly populism and governance.
Yeah, and what she said is has been told also by other people, especially the mayors, because the mayors, local mayors, knew about this reward system because, of course, the police would tell them. So I think there will be a lot of corroboration here. No, a lot of witnesses will come out to say yes, there was a reward system.
Speaking of corroboration, I mean, isa pang nasangkot dito sa expose ni Garma is si Bongo, no? At I find it interesting because both Bongo and Bato are suddenly claiming na ay wala, hindi naman kami importante, hindi naman kami kasama, hindi naman kami in the loop. I mean, of course, Bato during the Kervin Espinosa in response to the Kervin Espinosa expose na fake lahat yung mga cases against the Lima, etc. At some point sinabi ni Bato na hindi na wala naman siyang alam diyan, it's the DOJ, except there's a video of Bato checking exactly what Kervin is reading from the notes. So talagang obvious na obvious siya. But Bongo is also interesting. Bongo is saying wala akong kinalaman sa drug war. I'm just, assistant on I don't know other national affairs, which I find very I mean it's I'm quite incredulous because he's supposed to be the chief assistant of the president and there's nothing more central to the president's policy agenda than his drug war. So to what degree are these exposés in Quadcom exposing itong mga henchmen, itong mga alalay, I'm sorry, mga consigliere at saka mga lieutenants of Duterte?
Well, in the case of Bato, his fingerprint is there because he was the one who signed the Operation Tokhang circular. I mean, how can he say he doesn't know anything? Because in that Operation Tokhang circular, he said they will neutralize these drug pushers. Neutralize a term used by uh, in the military and the police. That means to kill. I mean, that's the only meaning of neutralize. And in fact, that's exactly what happened. Now he's saying he has nothing to do, but he signed the he issued the circular. In the case of Bongo, well, we all know that the president used Bongo to give out communications, to send messages. So if this is corroborated by so many people that they have to go through Bongo if they want a meeting with the president, or if the president's sending a message, it's Bongo who delivers the message. So, I mean, if the president, if something like this that requires a lot of secrecy, of course, it has to be coursed through Bongo because he was the most trusted uh, assistant of former President Duterte.
Consigliere, to put it in the Godfather way of putting it. I mean, of course, at the back of my head is the RICO law in the US. You know how they try to establish the chain of command and all of things like that. From a legal standpoint, Justice, how do you establish the complicity or culpability of Rodrigo Duterte or Bongo, for that matter, who were not directly involved in the PNP operations? If I mean, tama yung sinabi niyo, Justice, na at least kay Bato, may signature talaga PNP chief eh. But ito yung sinasabi ni Harry Roque parati na, that the commander-in-chief cannot be held accountable for the misdeeds of his alter egos. Yung mga charot niyang line na ganun. From a legal standpoint, what is the command responsibility on the part of Duterte? Even if wala kang mahanap na, I don't know, smoking gun, if I can say it, na may signature si Digong or Bongo na etong gagawin nyo sa drug war nyo.
Well, evidence can be both documentary and testimonial, and this is testimonial evidence. The testimony of Garma, uh, and because she's a credible person, because she was there inside, an insider. I mean that her testimony has a lot of credibility. So you don't have to look for a smoking gun like he signed the death warrant or he signed an instruction because the instruction is normally given verbally or even in codes. No.
Um, Thank you for clarifying that. Now, speaking of Garma, um, check. Grabe itong mga nangyari over the past few months. Just when we thought Alice Go will be the ultimate witness to bring down bad people, Now we have even something juicier, right? Someone very close to the former president, someone who knows about things. Now, obviously, Garma's testimony was questioned from one angle in particular, which is parang wala siyang ginawang masama, parang biktima lang siya. To what degree does her palusot put into question the veracity or the robustness of her testimony? Or should it even matter that she's trying to obviously get herself scot-free?
Well, there will be other people who will testify as to what exactly she did, and that will put into context what she said. That, but she admitted a lot already when she said that the president called him early in the morning to and instructed him to look for a Iglesia ni Cristo uh, PNP officer, and he in fact recruited the top guy, the you can call Leonardo the chief operating officer. So uh, the credentials are there. No, she might have minimized her role, but that's normal for a person who's also part of the conspiracy.
So if Duterte is the CEO and then si Leonardo is COO, ano si Bonga at saka si Bato? Ano yung Vice President for Operations and Logistics or ano ba? I mean, to use the
Well,
corporate
Bongo
line,
definitely is uh, the handle the communications because he was delivering messages. But
Vice
there's
President
also
for Communication.
testimony that he had his own death squad. No, so this is not yet over. There will be more revelations.
Before I go to the politics of this, kasi of course, both Bongo and Bato are, well, desperately trying to get reelected. And ibang usapan na if that could give them any immunity. But what about the question now that the Quadcom evidence should, at least in theory, reinforce the ICC case? And yet you have this is your former colleague, right? The current executive secretary saying that they're not going to cooperate with ICC on this matter in terms of passing down information or evidence gathered by the Quadcom regarding the drug war and the mass atrocities.
Well, the Quadcom hearings are public, televised, and anybody can get hold uh, of the recording, and any of those congressmen present there can say this is the correct copy of the recording. I was there. This is what these people said. So it can be verified as authentic.
So ano lang yun, hanash lang nila yan in a sense. Oh, hindi kami mag-cooperate sa ICC. But well, ICC, you're more than welcome to use everything we're giving you here, diba? I mean, it could be also submitted as,
Yeah.
corroborating evidence, everything, right?
The way I look at it, there will come a time when uh, there will be an avalanche of revelations that Malacanang will be forced to say, okay, let's give this all to ICC. And remember, they want also to politically cripple the Dutertes. Uh, it's just so happened that they have the uh, testimonial evidence now. They have people now singing. So of course, if that's your objective is to politically cripple, you can submit these testimonies to ICC.
I don't know if this is an appropriate metaphor. It's like parang hinihimas yung baboy bagong katayin. Is that what's happened? I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, I don't know if it's appropriate, baka animal rights abuse. But
Yeah,
like hinihimas mo to get it ready for the ultimate, for the
yeah.
hammer to come down. Is that the situation now, honestly?
I think the situation is that they're trying to get whatever they can get and just deliver this. I mean, at the end of the day, even if they don't deliver it, it's available to the ICC. And there's now no stopping any of those Quadco members testifying before the ICC.
Right. So obviously there's the politics of this, there's also the legal politics in a sense that it makes it talagang almost untenable for these people not to face any accountability and legally all the evidence is out there. So in short, irrelevant yung sinasabi ng former colleague niya sa Supreme Court, right? Parang hanash lang 'yan, di ba?
Well, what he's saying is maybe what he's saying is there are many ways of skinning a cat. I mean, we don't have to officially do, but my hunch is at the end of the day, they might cooperate.
So let's lay down the scenario here. This is scenario building. Again, yung mga nagbabash sa atin, it's not prediction, it's a scenario building. So let's say, what is the most likely situation here? Now, this Quadcom hearings will really culminate in like an, as you said, Justice, an avalanche of testimonies, exposés, and witnesses. And then ICC will eventually issue something, right? Whether it's red notice or blue notice via the Interpol, among other things. So ang mangyayari ba dito is they're gonna how's that? So mauna pa yung Philippine courts eventually. I mean, from Quadcom, is it eventually gonna go to courts in Philippine courts? And then sasabihin ng Marcos, no, no, we want our local courts to take. Parang ginagawa nila kay Kibuloy, di ba? Like, it's not that we don't want to cooperate with the FBI, but we want our courts to take a first crack first. Is that going to be a similar situation potentially, Justice?
Well, the DOJ already said that they're waiting for the final report of the Quadcom, and they will use that uh, as a basis for starting a criminal investigation. So uh, they're going in that direction. Uh, so the issue is if they're really serious with that, will the ICC back off now? But there is a principle in law that once a court acquires jurisdiction, that jurisdiction continues, and the ICC already acquired jurisdiction, and that jurisdiction will continue. That's the principle. They will not divest themselves of the jurisdiction that they have already acquired. But they can also, out of deference, allow the Philippine authorities to continue if they believe that there is an earnest effort in the investigation.
Yun nga, this is where you can suddenly make the complementarity argument work, no? In a sense that there's no need for ICC to come in. I mean, domestic institutions are finally doing their job, you know. So, of course, I agree with you, Justice, that in if you look at the past 8 years, not much has been done. But if finally something is being done, so it makes sense for ICC to say, okay, mukhang finally ginagawa nyo ng trabaho nyo, ayoko makialam dito, but we're just here over the horizon just in case. Is that something you're implying
Well,
here?
that's a possibility. It's up to them if they now believe that there's sincere and earnest effort on the part of the Philippine government. Uh, but it depends on how the DOJ will conduct its investigation.
This is this is gonna be crazy. It's gonna be like court shopping and like, oh my god. And all of this just is gonna coincide with the midterm elections, right? I mean, it's gonna be quite a carnivalesque situation.
Yeah, this will all happen while the campaign is going on. And you can see already the effect because Bato now is going down in the ranking.
And even Bongo, right? He's not doing as well
Yes.
as I
I
mean, there
think
was one
Bongo will
survey.
start to go down.
Yeah, so Bato is already alanganin. I think he's almost out of the, some would say. I mean, actually, ang bet namin ni Ronald Llamas, I don't know, Justice, what if you want to join the bet. Ang bet namin, sino maging mas mataas ang ranking? Si Chavez Singson or si Bongo? So, we think both will lose, pero ang tanong, sino mas mataas? I'm betting for my fellow Ilocano, Chavit, to rank higher than Bato. So, I'm just saying, I think if Chavit listens to my advice, he goes down with the jet, yung ano, private jet niya and all of this stuff. He might rank higher than Bato. But even Bongo medyo alanganin. Now, of course, this brings me to the Duterte's position in Davao. So I think nationally, medyo alanganin na yung team Duterte, right? I don't know about Willie Revilla, mukhang wala pa siyang platform, mamaya na daw. I don't think Willie will even win. Wala silang competitive candidate in national politics. I think Bongo is the best they got, but Bongo does Bongo. He has his own interest. But none of the Dutertes ran also for national office. Kulelat si Baste, Pulong was not even within the conversation. And Digong eventually decided to really run for just mayor and not for national office. Is it because he feels na alanganin si Baste at he has to protect the rear? Or is it because even Digong doesn't have what it takes to run for national politics? What do you think about the decision of all the three Dutertes to stay in local, considering Sara was, boasting that, hindi, tatlo yung papatakbo namin sa Senate next year, tapos magpa-president na si Baste. That's quite a climb down from that boastful days.
Well, they know that Baste could lose because he does not have it's not popular at all. So to save the kingdom, they're using the most powerful uh, 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 person that they can field, and that's the former president. No, they have two. It's either the former president or the incumbent vice president.
Tara
But
goes down, yeah.
yeah, but they cannot. Their Sarah is already in power, a heartbeat away from the presidency. So you would want to keep her there, no? And so they have to field uh, former President Duterte. And from what I hear, he's still very popular in Davao, although this could change, no, because of the Quadcom hearings. So as of now, uh, I think he's still ahead in Davao, but this could change.
This could change because they're against a Nograles clan who will likely get all the support and funding they need, right? I mean, like all the kalaban of Dutertes will now converge behind the Nograleses.
Yes, well, I understand that Carlo will get the support, full support of the Speaker of the House and the President himself. So, because this is, if they want to knock out Sarah in 2028, this is one of the means of knocking her out, no?
You go from backdoor yung attack nila, no? I mean, obviously it looks like on the paper Migs Nograles perhaps has a better chance of unseating Pulong than Carlo unseating Digong, considering what you mentioned that Digong is still a larger than life figure. But Digong is not really in the prime of his life, right? And so for
Yeah,
Carlo, perhaps it's about margins, right? If he keeps it close enough, that means yari sila later on when Digong perhaps is not in a position to run anymore
yeah,
from.
and
uh,
there's a question of the health of Digong because he looks really in bad shape, no?
He looks very frail. Obviously, our best wishes to
Yeah.
anyone. Kahit team kadiliman ka ba, we're not, this is just a political analysis na actually, even if Digong wins this, the long-term prospects don't seem very promising for the House of Duterte here. Now, Justice, before we go to kasi patapos na tayo sa Team Kadiliman, doon naman tayo sa kabila. But before we go there, habol lang sa Team Kadiliman. So do you see a situation whereby mag-aaway na yung Congress and Senate? Kasi they want Bongo and Bato to testify in the Quadcom. And then Bato, out of his, of course, Bato is a gentleman. Sabi niya hindi siya mag-launch ng sarili niyang hearing because it will obviously, alam natin ang mangyari. But Bongo shamelessly said, no, 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 I'm okay with it. And then Coco Pimentel is also now open to Senate hearing on the EJK issue. I was like, what's going on here in terms of legislative relations? Lower house, upper house.
Well, they can both conduct the EJK hearings, and I think it's very risky for Bato and Bongo uh, to agree to EJK hearings because you cannot control the people who will be attending, and I am sure the people like Garma will be called also, and they will all repeat what they said.
Yari sila no. But yun nga eh, do you feel that at some point they will feel compelled to testify at Quadcom? Mukhang malabo, no? It looks like
Well, they will not appear in the
kakatayin
house.
sila. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it was a tactical mistake for them to agree. I mean, looking at it from their point of view, because then you have the other side will have another chance to present people like Karma, and her testimony is very devastating.
My goodness. And there's more to come, no? Mas maraming mga police officials who know a lot, 'di ba, about yung mga inner workings na to. So, this could be the can of worms or Pandora's box situation, no? That the Garma could be the ultimate lock that opens the whole sa Pandora's box of what on earth was happening under Duterte. Now, let's transition, Justice, to kabilang team naman. Tapos na tayo sa Team Kadiliman. Let's talk again about itong PhilHealth fund issue. Because medyo nawala na siya sa headlines sa news, no? I mean, just to be honest, kasi nga laki tong Garma expose and all of that. Are you worried, Justice, that sa sobrang daming kababalagan na na-expose kay Duterte, hindi nyo ma-expose yung kapabalagan ng kabila. I mean, what's going on here? So, sorry for being so direct. I mean, I have to ask it. Yeah.
Well, we had to come out because uh, this one is a very big issue. And I'm sure the Duterte group will use this during the campaign. And they already said, in fact, Harry Roque already said, this is uh, anti-poor. What they're doing is uh, very anti-poor because this is the only chance for the poor to get health services. So this will become an election issue. It will not go away.
Wait, Harry Roque, nakita ko lang kay Topacio. Wait, where is Harry Roque? I mean, wait lang, ano bang natin dyan? Anong,
Well, he's trying to his side, but I think they will eventually catch him. But I understand that the wife already left the country.
Singapore. 'Di ba
Uh,
Singapore yung wife, 'di ba? Oh,
yeah,
taray, taray. Um, yeah, I
but
don't know what.
but uh, Richard, the Duterte group will make this PhilHealth funds a campaign issue because this will resonate with the
Yeah,
massa.
absolutely. And also, I think Topacio the other day, columnist pala si Topacio ngayon. Ewan ko naman newspaper ang nag-hire na yan. But Topacio had something also about the Maharlika Fund. How do you feel, Justice, about the fact that paras tayo nag-criticize sa policies ni BBM na kasama natin itong mga taong to? Do you feel honored and privileged, Justice, that we have teammates from Team Davao joining us?
Well, the it happens, no, but we will have to uh, distinguish because we knew that the Duterte people will use this in the election, and but we said we just have to bring this matter to the Supreme Court and distinguish ourselves from those guys. No, but this is a terrible mistake by the administration removing the PhilHealth funds. This will give them a black eye in the elections, and I hope they see the consequences here.
Justice, sorry, there's a very important question I had to. Saan daw si De La Serna? A fugitive na rin ba yung supranational, yung assistant ni... Sorry,
I really don't know where he
these are
is.
important questions. I can't ignore them. So, ang dami mga tanong eh. I mean, Justice,
He
every time
always appeared in the house whenever he was
umiyak-iyak na
called.
siya, di ba? I thought baka nagka-nervous breakdown na yung bata. I wish him the best. Sana maging piloto siya at you never know.
Yeah, yeah, and the young fellow has always been respectful of the committee of the Quadcom, and he tried to answer all the questions. Uh, so I think the poor guy is he really doesn't deserve this, but he's there.
But Justice, do you think he deserves yung unlimited access to joint bank account nila ni Harry?
Well, you know,
I mean, I'm
you
just saying, you never know. Maybe
well,
it
those
balances
are
out.
the benefits, but you just have to you take the problems that accompany with the benefits.
Yeah, it comes, it comes with the perks, medyo high risk job to mga to. Kaya I was asking Ronald Llamas lahat. Ikaw, Ronald, kung meron kang conjugal account at pwede mag-withdraw anytime yung kabila, ano yung nature of relationship niyo, di ba? Tapos sabi ni Llamas, sagutin ko ba talaga, Richard, yung tanong mo? Hindi. Hindi mo sasagutin yan on the record, di ba? Just speaking of team kasamaan, I'm sorry, speaking of the other side of this equation, what was the latest intervention you made? Because the last time we had the conversation was about parang you're pushing for Supreme Court to hear the case earlier kasi January pa, di ba?
Well,
What do you want to happen now?
well, we want the Supreme Court to issue a TRO because
TRO, yeah, sorry, yeah, yeah.
they're transferring the funds, and there's a principle that you if the act is irreparable, the damage is irreparable, the court will issue a restraining order. And But although you can quantify the damage here because you're talking of 89.9 billion, but the amount is so huge that if that money is spent, you cannot recover that anymore because uh, Secretary Recto, who is supposed to return the money, even if he did not benefit from it, because his signature, his circular was the one that enabled the release. His assets will not be sufficient to, even if he turns over his entire assets, it will not reach 89.9 billion. So my
Yeah.
my point is that is irreparable. So the court should issue a temporary restraining order because once the funds are disbursed, it can never be recovered anymore.
So your argument essentially is that because we're talking about so much money that could be spent by the time the hearing will start next month, dapat may TRO na may preemptive
Yes. So
intervention
if it's
na.
just a matter of 1 million pesos, well, you can always recover that from Secretary Recto. But if it's almost 90 billion, he won't be able to pay that.
Yeah. Um, how do you read the Marcos administration on this issue? Because there are some skeptical people. I think Riza Robles, I mean, expectedly, is also paying attention to a lot of issues about Marcos. As for instance, yung recently dun sa PCGG, right? Yung for Presidential Commission for Good Governance, it looks like the Marcoses are making some moves about some of the ill-gotten wealth that was appropriated by the government. I mean, aren't this and also the Poway one, the complex, mas malaki pa sa complex yata ni Kibuloy ito eh. How worrying are those developments? Are there rear actions, sleazy moves by the Marcoses on the
Well,
sides that we have to pay attention to?
well, in the case of the one in Ilocos,
The
I think
Poway.
the Poway, it's surprising that the Supreme Court was unanimous, not that it belongs to the government. So that's it. That's a big loss for them. But you can see in the other cases that the courts are now dismissing the cases for failure to prosecute. Huh? So, uh, well, is that because the Marcos is now in power? Well, the this will come to haunt us whether uh, it's because of the Marcoses are back in power. Uh, the courts have no recourse but to dismiss the cases. I mean, we will know in the future what's really the real score, and it will not be good for the courts if the historical records will show that they bent backwards. No, but there's really a big problem because these have been there for a long time. Whatever administration we had, the cases have not moved. No, so uh,
Yun nga, yun nga, I'm wondering, Justice, if we're paying enough attention to that side of the equation, no? Kasi we're all on the Garma issue. I mean, I don't know how I mean I kind of understand probably yung thinking mo on this justice, but ako, of course, my case is mass murder is still the biggest evil to me, right? For me,
yeah,
the killings that happen next level yan,
yeah, I
corrupt.
agree with you. Yeah, I mean, killing people, that's no no. The Because life can never be restored. No, you can never get back somebody who died already. You cannot. That's He's dead. He's gone forever. There's no compensation. You cannot. No matter what amount of money you have, you cannot return the life of that fellow. So that's the highest, of course. No, in our hierarchy of values, life is the has the highest value.
Yun nga, parang hierarchy of evil, if I can put it that way. Yung mass murder and drug war, I would put still it way on top. In fact, I got into hot waters because I wrote this piece about is Duterte the worst president we have had. So obviously, a lot of people said, why not Marcos Sr. or whatever, right? And I said, well, I mean, I think in first 4 years of Duterte, there was more EJK than the entire dictatorship period of Marcos, which was almost 2 decades, right? Uh,
Yes, I remember Shell Jokno, the lawyer of the uh, victims who brought the matter to the Supreme Court. quoted a resolution when I was still there in the Supreme Court uh, that resolution quoted that a report of the PNP that there were already at that time 25,000 people killed because of the drug war.
That's under investigation.
25,000.
Yeah. That's under
Yeah.
investigation. That's a technical term they use, no? I
Yeah.
mean,
When they said the killed, because killed in the drug war, uh, they included everything, including those who allegedly were part of the the drug syndicates were fighting each other. So it totaled to over 25,000. And that's in the resolution because that's admitted by the PNP. They made a report, an official report to the president. It was in the website, and we found it in the website. And we just quoted the website, the official report of the PNP that a total of more than 25,000 people have been killed in the war on drugs.
so Justice, I think that sets the predicate for this important part of our conversation. Um, Senator De Lima is now running for Congress. Chel Jokno is running for Congress. Not to mention a couple of great folks also running for the Senate. Kiko is trying to go back. Hindi ko natawag na Bam Aquino. Buff Aquino na. Medyo bata-bata na si Bam Aquino. Medyo nag-buff up na. So, what should be the position of the genuine opposition dito sa election na yan in terms of etong in-navigating etong dalawang nagbabanggaan dahil lahat may ano may baggage 'di ba? What should be the position here and how important it is to have the Delimas and the Chel Joknos of this world in the legislature, especially because many are expecting some big things to happen in the next Congress, including who knows, charter change, impeachment of Sara. What is your take on that, Justice, as a top leader in the One Sambayan coalition movement?
Well, when you run for the Senate, you look at your ranking in the surveys, and if you are way down, I mean, it will be practically impossible for you to win. So most of them went for party list in the House because you need only 300,000 votes if you are the number one nominee. And well, that's very easy to gather, no? So the problem is the national because the ticket of the uh, government right now is quite strong, and you have also the Duterte incumbents in the Senate. So uh, very tight for the so-called genuine opposition to get in. Uh, the but of course, there are still candidates of the genuine opposition, but most of them have decided not to throw their hat into the ring. They decided to slid down to the House. So even they themselves acknowledge that it's an uphill battle. So uh, it's maybe we'll go through this process where the political dynasties will fight each other, and both of them will be weakened, and the third force can come in. But it's really it's sad that the two strongest parties are both belong to the political dynasties.
Right. Obviously, you can see it as a tactical retreat or realistic adjustment. Uh, but can Chel Jokno and Leila De Lima make significant difference if they were in Congress? I mean, we have seen with all of these hearings that, in fairness naman sa Congress, it can make quite a difference and catch national attention. Contrary to stereotypes of Congress as just House of Trapo and not much real hearings or activities happening.
Well, they can because they can speak also during committee hearings. They can ask questions, so they can make a big difference if they play it right. Although, of course, it's there are many of them there compared to 24 in the Senate. But I think they've decided to play it safe. I mean, I can see it's really very difficult for them to make it in the Senate now.
Justice, let's go to the last part of our discussion for today. Let's talk about the West Philippine Sea. What's the importance of the Typhoon missile system deployment to the Philippines? Because um, initially, both Philippines and the Pentagon were wishy-washy about this. Sabi nila gamitin sa balikatan, tapos hindi ginamit sa balikatan. Sinabi nila for logistical transportation purposes lang. And the next thing we know, it's still here. And then, more important now, we have Filipino officials saying, like General Bronner, na who knows, maybe we'll keep it forever. How important is the deployment of those missile systems, like Typhoon missile systems? And do you think we should have more of those even in the Philippines and acquire some of them ourselves?
Well, they serve as a deterrence, just like our BrahMos missiles, and this one have longer range, so they have a bigger, they pay a bigger deterrence to China. So I think we should keep them if we can and acquire more of this, uh, just to uh, for deterrence. It doesn't mean that we can beat China in a war, but China will think twice before it tries to invade us. No? So, and that's the value of this. It changes uh, the calculus on the part of the Chinese that whereas before they said it's just a walk in the park. Now it's no longer a walk in the park. Yeah, they will get a bloody nose, and that's what will prevent them from doing what they want to make the 10-dash line their national boundary. Because at the end of the day, that's really the bottom line. What's the all this? What's the end game of China? The end game of China is to make the 10-dash line their national boundary. That means we lose 80% of our exclusive economic zone. We lose all our island territories in the West Philippine Sea. That's really the bottom line there. And if we have these missiles, the Typhoon, the BrahMos, then it could deter China. It could delay them. It could stop them. But if we don't have this, then it's a walk in the park for the Chinese.
And weakness invites aggression, right? I mean, I
That's
think
right. Yeah.
that's what people don't understand. If you look weak, you're ripe for the picking, the more there'll be war. So I
And
think, yeah,
the President Xi has to show something before the 100th year anniversary of the Chinese Communist Party, and he has promised to retake Taiwan. And if he cannot retake Taiwan, we are the low-hanging fruit. And
it needs a punching bag. It needs a punching bag.
yeah, he needs a punching bag to tell the Chinese people, okay, we were not able to get number one objective, but we got our second objective.
Just since the last time we talked, hindi na tuloy itong joint patrols with the US or US supporting our mission resupply patrols to the disputed futures. But in fairness, on some areas, there's some movements. I've been pushing for this for quite some time. Ito yung, why not US donate some of their relatively modern vessels that they're not using? So actually now there's a push in the US House of Representatives to give us a missile-guided cruiser. What do you think about that, considering that, it's not cheap to maintain some of these ones, especially the ones that may also need some extra expenditure? I think this is the Ticonderoga class.
Ticonderoga class
Deroga,
cruiser.
yes,
Well,
missile cruiser,
it's
yeah,
a huge ship,
yeah.
and maybe you have about 40 missiles there, vertical launchers. So I don't know if that is appropriate for us.
Mm,
Uh, what we need really are frigates, not cruisers.
yeah.
Uh, so I let the Navy decide whether that will
Yeah.
help us or be a problem for us.
Ako naman kasi ang take ko dito is we just have to normalize US giving us some more valuable things in a sense that I feel baka this could, yeah, it's symbolic, it's potentially impractical, or actually many find it impractical, unless there's an all-out war or something that we're
Mm.
hopefully will not happen. But ang point ko lang kasi is, for instance, um you have former national security advisor of Trump writing this piece on Foreign Affairs magazine, Peace Through Strength, right? And he explicitly says we have to support the Philippines as much as we're supporting key allies like Israel. And Israel has been getting billions and billions of dollars of aid, defense aid throughout the years, and all of the state-of-the-art weapon systems. And the kind of enemies they're facing is nowhere close. They're facing non-state actors, militias, right? compared to us who are up against the biggest navy on earth, by some account. Don't you think that this kind of this kind of even symbolic or impractical donations, whatever you want to call it, may open up psychologically this idea that the United States should really go ahead and give us massive new acquisitions, whether fighter jets, multi-role vessels, brigades, and whatnot. I'm just thinking kasi along those lines, na
Yeah.
normalize treating Philippines like a really special ally, like they're treating, I don't know, even Ukraine, which is not the US treaty ally now.
Yes. If I were to choose, I would rather ask HIMARS from them because remember, those HIMARS, with especially the long range one, can strike any of those bases of the Chinese in the Spratlys. They're within range. And once you have those HIMARS, then you're telling China, we can destroy you at any time. So all those bases of yours are useless. And you cannot destroy the HIMARS because they are mobile. They're not in a fixed position. So I think I would prefer the HIMARS than the Terraconda class of a cruiser because I think it's more effective, really, the HIMARS.
It's like you want to give us an old Ferrari when what we need is a nice new Toyota that is, gets us through, right? Parang
Yes.
give us a Yaris hybrid, we'll get it through. Um, what I heard about HIMARS when I asked some defense journalists accompanying the sila Austin and all last night was like, yeah, everyone is asking for that. You're not alone because gwapong-gwapo yung HIMARS dahil sa nangyari sa Ukraine, di ba? Bugbog sarado ang mga Russians eh. But you have now the THAAD missile deployment to Israel in anticipation of potential Iranian retaliation should the cycle of tit for tat, let's just call it missile ping pong, continue. Aren't you worried, Justice, that the U.S. might get too over bogged down? I mean, they're already bogged down to a certain degree because, having a two-front war with both Russia and Iran is, well, great news for China, right? I mean, let Moscow and Tehran take care of US by bogging them down into other theaters. Isn't that something that worries you here?
Yes, to a certain extent, because it could cause fatigue in the American public, because it could change. Their sentiment could change. They said, "Oh, why do we have to carry the burden of the world? Spend so much. Uh, they're spending a lot here." So that's a big worry. In fact, that uh, they will be overstretched, and uh, these things. If there's a war in the Middle East, it will consume a lot of military equipment. I mean, a lot of you'll have to to fire a lot of missiles and bombs there, drop a lot of bombs. So it's concerning. That's why we have to think also of some fallback positions in case the U.S. gets too involved there and will lessen its attention to us, to our region of the world.
Yeah, I mean, you had a RAND Corporation and also another bipartisan congressional study said that the US at most can fight a 1.5 war, meaning
Yes.
half involved in one theater and then fully involved in other theaters. So if Russia and Iran bog down the US already in two theaters, I don't know how much is left for Taiwan or the Philippines. I mean, as we speak, the Financial Times came up with this report that intense war demands are have left Israel relying on the US to fill in the gaps because the latest ballistic missile attack by Iran showed some vulnerabilities. And that's not even the entirety of the arsenal, and things could get crazier. So Dana Stroll, a former senior US defense official, said the US cannot continue supplying both Ukraine and Israel at the same pace. We are reaching a tipping point. It's like I mean, this is if you are in Asia and you're looking at China and saying, "What the heck? This is not good, right? This is quite worrying." So
Yes.
yung mga iba na tuwan-tuwa dun sa mga wars sa mga yan, like actually, if you're a Filipino, you want those wars to end and not escalate anymore because the real deal is here, right? China is the real deal.
Yeah, and that's why we should always be prepared for that. And it could get even worse, that the American public will get tired, weary of doing all this fighting abroad. They just might withdraw. And we should be prepared for that also.
Ako kasi just it's not only the public opinion which I'm worried about. Well, I mean, Americans are entitled to care about their own national interests and all. I'm worried about even well, it's more like the US not even having enough of itself militarily to do what it has to do, even if it has public support. At the end of the day, limitations are limitations. Just on the last point here, ay, hindi, wag na. Si Ronald Llamas na lang tanongin ko. Hindi, mukhang may Harry Roque na rin yung kabilang kampo. Hindi ko alam kilala ito si Attorney Wilfredo Garrido. Kala ko sila Chloe Caloy lang. Pati ako tinetroll niya ako. Kaya sabi ko, sino kaya ito? Tanongin ko kaya si Justice Carpio. I mean, one thing I don't understand, Justice, is bakit may mga ibang tao dyan na kunyari pink or opposition, tapos inaaway nila tayo. Sabi nga niya, kami ni Jay at saka tayo. Wala naman daw tayong ginawa, wala tayong sinabi sa EJK, nagpa-safe lang daw tayo sa West Philippine Sea. I don't know, I'm just finding this very interesting. Tagapin na lang natin, Justice, na huwag natin patulan.
Well, me, I just shrug my shoulder. Uh, like the US, we cannot fight on all fronts.
Yeah, good point. Good point. That was a good Uno reverse, Justice. No? Richard, puro kang sinasabi, we cannot do multiple theaters. Isa ka pa nag-away. Thank you so much, Justice Carpio, for that fantastic conversation. I think everyone loves it as usual. Maraming mga ibang tanong dyan. Of course, half of our questions are always about Harry Roque and all of that, but maybe next time on that. Actually, by some of them have even some questions here. Yung SM-6 missile systems ng because China did the ballistic missile test also recently, di ba? Nung
Yes.
September 26, right? And medyo nakakatakot yung China at yung ginawa nila sa Taiwan. So I'm just saying, don't forget this part of the world. It's also important. Salamat, Justice. Is there something that you think our audience should pay attention to? What should they look forward to in terms of your interventions dun sa PhilHealth scandal issue? What are the other things that they have to pay attention to?
Well, that one is very important because it will affect a lot of poor people, and that's why we had to do this. And hopefully, we will get the right attention from the Supreme Court. We really need a TRO.
Yeah. Thank you very much again, Justice, for also that very good advice. Choose your battles. I mean, I was just advising, oh, nga pala, it applies also to us. So let's choose our battles and let's move forward from that. Hopefully we'll catch you again, Justice, with the rest of the gang, with sila Ronald. And ngayon,
Yeah.
senatorial candidate Mark Gamboa, na-clear na siya, hindi na siya nuisance. I said, woo! Kasama ka lang sa podcast namin, kaya siguro nanood din ng Comelec, kaya na-clear ka na, ay namin i-disqualify yan, baka ma-RRM kami. Thank you so much, Justice, and hopefully let's continue this conversation very, very soon. God bless po.
Okay. Thank you also.